Take a moment to close your eyes as you listen to this bedtime story. Now, this bedtime story is also being designed with specific patterns for those who perhaps worry too much. And the patterns will help you to move on from worry, to reduce your worrying. And if you don't need those patterns to help you with worrying, then all this will be for you is a relaxing bedtime story to help you fall asleep comfortably. So with your eyes closed, listening to me, you can have a sense of being a part of a group of adventurers who are on the search for some Himalayan ruins. And you're walking through a forest, dense forest, heading towards the Himalayan mountains. And the greens just seem so bright and vivid, and the sounds, and the movement of the leaves, sounds of each footstep, dancing light through the canopy. And you hack your way through the forest, going deeper and deeper into the forest, heading towards those mountains in the distance that from within the forest you can't yet see. And as you continue travelling deeper and deeper into the forest, so you begin to notice the sound of flowing, running water. And after some time searching, you find a stream, and you stop by the stream briefly. And you put your hand in the water and notice the ice-cold water that's obviously been flowing down from the mountains. That's it. And you fill up a bottle with that fresh, clear, ice-cold water. And you have a drink of some of that water and feel that coolness passing into your mouth and down your throat. Feeling it refresh from the inside out. And then filling your bottle up again, with it bubbling as the air comes out the bottle and the water goes in. And putting that bottle into your backpack as you continue your journey. And you now follow the stream, heading upstream. That's it. Then you start finding yourself having a few what-if thoughts. What if this stream actually is coming from a place that isn't where you can climb up? What if this stream isn't very direct, in which case you're going to be walking around for ages? And you find yourself having different what-if thoughts. And then you realise the only certainty is that you are exactly where you are here and now, in exactly the position you're in here and now. There's no certainty about the future, There's no certainty about where you're going to go and what you're going to find. The only certainty is where you are right now, and that anything else is just a thought. And as an adventurer, you're aware that worrying about these things is perfectly fine. Worry is a powerful tool, but you've learned and mastered the art of using worry correctly. So you take these things and you think about the solution. So worry is the first part of successfully solving problems. Worry is the identifying of the problems. But this needs to be followed up with the solution to the problems. So you now think about what will you do as you're walking along. You think about what will you do if it turns out that this stream isn't very direct and that you're walking all over the place to get to your destination. What will you do if this stream turns out that you arrive at the mountains and you're in a location you can't climb? And you thank that part of you that's observant enough and forward-thinking enough to be creative and identify potential risks and potential problems. And so you look at what you will do. And if the route is longer, you'll just have to arrive later. Or you can make a decision to continue cutting through the forest as you were before. But as you give it thought, you think about how much longer it takes to travel slowly because you're cutting through the forest versus travelling faster on a longer route. So unless the route is wildly off course and roundabout, you're aware that it probably won't make much difference in time. And if you're wrong about your worry, you'll actually arrive sooner than if you had just hacked through to get where you were going. And you think about climbing the mountain. And if you arrive somewhere you can't climb, and again you think, well, if I arrive somewhere that I can't climb, if that's where we end up, we can just follow the base of the mountain. Knowing we're at the mountains, we can follow the base and walk along until we find a location we can climb. And once you've worried and then problem solved, you can put it out your mind, because you know if that situation occurs, you know what you're going to do in that situation. And this is a skill that you have mastered as an adventurer. And you notice as you continue walking that the running water makes the air fresh. And there's a certain sensation to the air and a certain lack of freshness when you're in the deep jungle, when you're in the deep forest, compared to when you're near the water. And you follow the stream as you head towards your destination. And it's quite a long walk. So as you notice the sun setting, although you can't see the sun through the trees, you clear a bit of land slightly high up, away from being directly by the stream. And you dig a hole in the ground and you create a muddy patch on the ground. And you place rocks around that. And you set up a fire in the middle and light the fire. And you all then set up hammocks about 6 or 8 feet off the ground between the trees. And these hammocks are like ordinary hammocks, but they have a tent kind of roof feature that you put between the trees above you as well. And then you'll settle down for the night to have something to eat. And some food gets cooked over the fire and you can smell that food being cooked. And you chat and you laugh and you enjoy the evening with each other. And the sounds in the forest change as nighttime sets in deeper and deeper. That's it. And then, after you've eaten and you've spent some time enjoying the evening with fellow adventurers, you get into your hammock and close your eyes and wrap up warm. And as a breeze blows, the hammock sways very gently, and your movement makes the trees sway very, very gently. And the swaying is kind of hypnotic, helping you drift comfortably asleep. And then in the morning, the fresh air wakes you up. The changing to the sounds wakes you up. The increased sound of certain birds wakes you up. And you feel like you've had the most beautiful night's sleep. And you tidy up the fire, pack up your belongings before continuing your journey back towards the mountains. And after half a day's trek, the sound of water gets louder and louder, and you arrive at a lake. And it's only a small lake, and on the far side of the lake is a waterfall plummeting down the mountain, filling that lake. And you and the other adventurers head around the lake to the waterfall. And you notice that the best place here to climb up will involve climbing up right on the edge of the waterfall. And so you get your climbing gear out, and you all work together to ensure each other's safety as you begin to make the ascent up the side of the waterfall, getting drenched in the cold spray, but finding it refreshing because of the effort you're putting into your climbing. And then once you reach the top of the waterfall, you reach over the top and you drag yourself up and lie on your back to catch your breath. You take a few deep, purposeful breaths lying on your back, breathing in comfort and relaxation, breathing out stress and tension, breathing in comfort and relaxation, breathing out stress and tension. And then you roll away from the edge before standing up and walking a little way, ready to give space for the next fellow adventurer to get to the top. And each one by one, as you just sit watching, catching your breath, gazing over the top of the forest. You just watch each person as they reach the top and do the same as you did. Catch their breath before moving away from the edge to let the next person up. And after everyone's up at the top of the waterfall, so you all begin your climb up the mountain. And as you climb, you reach a certain point where the temperature begins to drop and you have to wrap up warmer. And a little while further, you reach a point where snow begins to settle. And you can be walking and suddenly a snowstorm will hit. And then as no sooner had it hit, it will just disappear again. And so you keep together and you keep an eye on each other. And you have a rope connecting all of you together to keep you all safe. And you think to yourself, this is so much hard work. You wonder whether it was worth it. You worry that something could go wrong. Then you go through a stage where it's almost like you hit a wall in your mind, when negative thoughts are coming up and telling you the reality of the situation, or at least the worst case scenario of the reality of the situation. And so, because of your training, you take a moment. It's approaching the end of this day, so you take a moment to pitch up your tents in a circle. Create a fire between all of you and sit around that crackling fire, taking it in turns to keep that fire alight, feeling the warmth from the fire, protecting the fire from most of the wind by the way you've arranged the tents. And you watch the dancing, flickering flames of the fire, hear the crackling of the fire, hear the wind hitting the tents, and the material of the tents moving in the wind. And some wind that gets through the tents, you hear it whistling through. And you feel the warmth of the fire. As you take those worries and the negative thoughts. And you sit and you close your eyes and you begin to meditate. You begin to let those thoughts be there and just accept it's just the brain thinking, and those thoughts are just there. There's no need to give them fuel. There's no need to reinforce them. Just acknowledging them, recognizing whether they are based on any grain of truth or not. And if they are, and if something they're thinking could possibly happen, then preparing what you'll do if that happens. So that once you've prepared and you've mentally rehearsed what you'll do if that happens, there's no need to worry again, because you know if that happens, you know exactly what you'll do. And you spend an hour or two meditating like this, allowing yourself to reprogram your mind before heading to your tent to go to sleep for the night. And in the tent, you can hear and notice the movement of the tent as the wind hits the walls. And you wrap up warm, almost like wrapping up in your own cocoon. You wrap up warm and relaxed. And then you, to those sounds, drift comfortably asleep, finding the sounds around you help you drift comfortably asleep. And then awakening the next morning, you notice how the wind has died right down. There's an incredible stillness around you. And you step out of the tent into snow, and you hear the crackling snow, the crunching snow between your feet. Clear everything away and continue your ascent. And as you climb higher and higher, you reach a point where you can see over the top of the clouds. And gazing around, it almost looks like someone has covered the world in cotton wool, or in some other kind of white fluffy substance that just seems to make it so that you can't see anything beneath that. And you continue your climb, and you get your compass out and you follow your compass, heading to exactly where the coordinates are of where you're trying to go. And you climb higher and higher up the mountain, before finding what looks like two pillars. And so you investigate these pillars, and they look man-made. And you scrape off the snow beneath your feet until you find a solid surface, and it looks like a path that someone has made at some point. And so you now continue following this path, this man-made path, deeper and deeper into the mountain range, and higher and higher. And after climbing for what seems like hours, following this path, you turn a corner and notice how the pillars now seem to be making an arch, and they're evenly spaced pillars, some distance between them, but they're all now arched over. And so you continue following the path under the arched pillars, and they lead straight to the side of the mountain. And you tap on the mountain, and have a sense that the bit that you're at seems hollow. It sounds a bit different to just outside of this arch. And so you scrape off the snow and you see a stone door. And with your fellow adventurers, you open the stone door and you roll it aside. And with torches, you step inside and start exploring. And while you start exploring, you notice how the sound changes from outside to inside. How there's an echoey wind sound in here. It's much quieter, it's more mute than it was outside. The air temperature is warmer. There's a certain serenity and calmness that comes over you from being in here. A certain peacefulness. And you explore. Then you hear the occasional drip, aware that somewhere around you there's probably stalactites hanging from the ceiling, with water running down them from the snow and the mountain above, and the drips occasionally dripping to the floor. And you find a wall that's covered in inscriptions that have been carved into that wall. And you look along the inscriptions and you work out what they mean. And not only do they share something profound that you understand on a deep and unconscious level, but they also share the location of an artifact that's hidden somewhere else among the corridors of these ruins. And so you continue following the ruins deeper and deeper into the mountain. And you find a room, and it's covered by a door, a huge stone door. And there's a stone ball on the floor. And there's a stone square slab next to the ball. And it takes you and some of your adventurers who are with you to roll that ball onto the slab. And as you do, the slab gives way beneath it and the ball drops down into the hole made by the moved slab. And then the door swings inwards and open and slides out the way. And there's some ancient mechanism that was obviously created for this door. And you walk into this chamber and you see 4 beams of light somehow entering the chamber, lighting up a golden cup right in the middle of the chamber. And the rest of the chamber's in darkness apart from these 4 beams of light. And you take a look at where the beams of light are coming from. And you realize that somehow someone had drilled holes through from outside the mountain all the way through the mountain into this exact chamber. And then they had filled those holes with the purest, cleanest water. And that water turned to ice. And for some reason, something must be preventing heavy snow build up on top of those pillars of ice. And so the sun shines straight onto the pillars and reflects like optical fibres. It reflects all the way down those ice pillars before shining into this chamber and shining onto this cup. And you take the golden cup and notice an inscription around the top of the cup on the outside. And you look very closely at the inscription. And you read it, and then you translate it into the closest translation you can come up with. And it says that the cup needs to be empty if it's to be filled. And you wonder what that means. And you know that it's approaching the end of the day, and that within a few hours the sun will be setting, and that the best place to camp on the way back down is where you camped before. But you won't make it there by the time the sun sets. So you decide to all set up camp in this chamber, spend the night in this chamber. We can all work on translating all the messages around the walls and learning as much as you can about these secret hidden ruins and who created them, who left them. And then the next morning, you start your journey back down, heading back the way you came, back down to that first point where you set up camp. And so you camp there again for the night. And then you follow down and get down into the forest. And you find your camping space in the forest and you camp there again. Before then finding your way all the way back out of the forest, taking with you knowledge you've now gained, new wisdom and new understandings, new insight that you'll never forget, that's just always in your mind, guiding your behaviour, guiding your understanding of the world, and what to focus on, what not to focus on, what's important and what's not important. And all the adventurers find their way back out of the jungle, back out of this forest. As you drift deeper and more comfortably asleep, drifting deeper and more comfortably asleep. Now,